What is going on, guys? What is going on, 27 Squad? Welcome back into another video. Listen, the New York Giants have concluded their draft, and I've got to say, I love this draft class. Every single year since Dave Gettleman has been the New York Giants GM, I've been more and more excited for the future as the Giants are planning for the future, getting these young players in that are not just developmental, but just all have high ceilings. You look at our draft class, all of these guys have high ceilings. All of these guys have had potential. And so I'm loving what Dave Gettleman did. In this video, you're going to have, my analysis, kind of a background of the player. We're going to break down the player, kind of go through his collegiate career a little bit, give my thoughts on him as a player, and give my final grading on the pick. Listen, this might be a long video, guys, so strap in yourselves, grab a snack, grab a drink, do something. We're going to be talking about the 2020 New York Giants draft class. So first overall, the New York Giants selected Andrew Thomas, offensive tackle out of Georgia. And I have to say, I am extremely excited even right now. I'm still hyped up about this pick, man, that the Giants went out and didn't fall for Mekhi Becton's potential and just ignored his raw ability, and on top of that with Tristan Wirfs as well, and they could have gotten Jedrick Wills, but Andrew Thomas just fits the New York Giants to a T, and I will explain that when we talk about his background and how that correlates to Andrew Thomas moving on as an offensive tackle with the New York Giants. We look at Andrew Thomas's measurables. He's 6'5", 315 pounds. Now, I think I wrote 318. I think it was 318 or 315. And has a 36.5-inch arms, which were second longest in the combine, second to only UConn's Matt Peart, who we're going to get to in a second because the Giants drafted him as well. So the Giants drafted some really long-armed guys. They are obviously looking for a certain prototype at offensive tackle, but let's talk about Andrew Thomas. Andrew Thomas was a 5-star and top 50 recruit for the Georgia Bulldogs and started 15 games at right tackle in his freshman year, garnering All-American accolades on the way. His sophomore year, he transitioned to left tackle and did not skip a beat, garnering even more accolades this time at the left tackle position. Thomas made second-team AP All-American and All-SEC in his 13 starts at left tackle. He stays relatively healthy. He missed only one game, which was in 2018 due to an ankle injury, which is common for offensive linemen. He again received first-team All-American and first-team All-Conference in the SEC in 2019. Andrew Thomas only allowed 1 sack in his collegiate career, 0 in 2019, and with a total of 9 pressures, and that equates to a pressure rate of 2.2% in his collegiate career. That is one of the top in the NFL draft class. There was one guy that was better. We'll get to him in a second, but let's compare that to the other top offensive linemen in this year's draft class. We look at Mekhi Becton, who was drafted to the New York Jets. He allowed 1 sack, 5 quarterback hits, 6 hurries, and a total of 12 pressures, which equates to a total of 3.8% to Andrew Thomas's 2.2%. We look at Jedrick Wills. He allowed 1 sack, but only a 3.5% pressure rate. Tristan Wirfs is more the guy that you could compare Andrew Thomas to, as he only allowed 2 sacks this time. He allowed 1 more than Andrew Thomas, 2 sacks, but only had a 1.5% pressure rate. So that's a lot better than Andrew Thomas. But when it comes to Andrew Thomas, let's talk about him and how he fits the New York Giants. I made a video about that in the I'll leave the card up above, but we talk about Andrew Thomas. He was at right tackle in his true freshman year, then transitioned to left tackle, won awards at both positions. That's exactly probably what the Giants are going to do with Andrew Thomas this year. He's going to be playing right tackle this year, most likely, barring Matt Peart really just progresses and grows out of his raw ability. But Andrew Thomas is probably going to be slated at right tackle, and he's probably going to do great in that and transition 1 year later to left tackle, exactly what he did in college. So I love this, and I love this for Andrew Thomas. I love the pick. It was perfect for the New York Giants. Maybe Jedrick Wills could have went 4th overall if it wasn't the New York Giants picking at number 4. But Andrew Thomas fits this team to a T. Andrew Thomas also handled pass rushers like Kalavin Chaisson, Julian Okwara, Josh Allen. You guys have all seen the video of Josh Allen getting thrown. Also, Julian Okwara getting thrown. I mean, he handled the best of the best, especially playing in the SEC where a lot of these top tier pass rushers are coming from. Andrew Thomas is the most balanced offensive tackle in this year's draft class when it comes to run blocking, pass blocking, and I'm going to give this grade an A+ for getting the guy I wanted, my favorite tackle in this year's draft. We then move on to Xavier McKinney. The Giants drafted him 36th overall in the second round, safety out of Alabama. We look at his measurables. He's coming in at 6 foot 201 pounds. He ran a 40-yard dash of 4.63 and had 19 bench reps, and that's pretty high for a safety. A lot of offensive linemen can't get around that number. McKinney did not play much in his true freshman year, as he was behind guys like Ronnie Harrison, Deontay Thompson, and Minka Fitzpatrick, just to name a few. So obviously he's not going to get too much playing time. So he really spent his time playing on special teams and being a reserve player until he got his start. Selected as a AP third-team All-American, named a finalist for the Jim Thorpe Award, nation's best defensive back, named MVP for the Orange Bowl with 5 tackles and 4 passes defense. Xavier McKinney is a strong safety prospect that has better coverage skills than Jabril Peppers, but should be around the same player, like a box player. Can't get lost in deep coverage when he's deciphering where he should go. Not a rangy sideline-to-sideline safety, but a hard hitter. But he needs to get stronger as he gets pummeled more than I would like. Whiffs on tackles as well, as he gets a little too aggressive, especially when trying to tackle in the backfield. Plays the ball in the air very well. He has decent flat and middle zone coverage. And let me tell you right now, this guy is an excellent blitzer. When it comes to Jabril Peppers and Xavier McKinney, these two might be the next Earl Thomas and Cam Chancellor when it comes to just dominance all around the field from the safety position. I really love what the Giants are doing here. Now, I would have wanted Antoine Winfield because I wanted that yin and yang factor from the Giants. You have that guy that is in the box and Jabril Peppers and plays the tight end and covers the running back out the backfield, really makes the hard hitting plays. And then Antoine Winfield would have been a perfect match as well. The guy that's just a coverage guy, also a great tackler. He's smaller but has fantastic ball skills. He's the guy I would have wanted, but Xavier McKinney was the best player available and also fit a need. So I have to. And he's also a great player, so I have to, recognize that. And so I'm going to give this grade a B+ for the New York Giants. We move on to round 3, as this is one of my favorite picks in the draft. Round 3, the Giants selected Matt Peart, the offensive tackle out of UConn, 99th overall. He's standing in at 6'7", 318 pounds, has 36 and 5/8 arms. This guy has some long arms, man. That is top of the draft class, and second is Andrew Thomas, as I mentioned earlier. Not only that, he put up 26 bench reps on the bench press in the combine, which is a great number. Matt Peart grew up in Bronx, New York, and he grew up a Giants fan on top of that. He really idolized Will Beatty. Will Beatty, also a UConn tackle, making his jump into the NFL with the New York Giants, and now he's in the same exact position. Originally supposed to be a basketball player for UConn, but coaches insisted to get him in a football uniform right away and saw his potential at tackle. Coaches had him gain a total of 40 pounds and they sat him, so they redshirted him in 2015 but got his start in 2016 and started every single game at left tackle. In 2018 he made the move to right tackle, and in 2019 he was selected first team All-American Athletic Conference while starting 12 games at the tackle spot. He's great in pass coverage and has potential to get even better, but has all the tools to be a great right tackle. He doesn't dominate opponents, but has the room to gain weight and get stronger. His hands seem to be up to par and needs to learn better technique. With the right coaching, he can start this year. Matt Peart is probably one of the most athletic guys in this year's draft. I'm really excited with what he can do. He has raw ability. I'm really excited with what Mark Colombo can do with Matt Peart and hopefully get him ready to start this year, as I'm ready to see Nate Solder go. In the 4th round, the New York Giants select Darnay Holmes, the cornerback out of UCLA, standing at 5'10", 195. In the beginning, this pick was definitely a head scratcher, as we had guys like Julian Love, Grant Haley, Corey Ballentine, all fighting for that corner, that nickel corner spot. But I think the Giants are getting a little too impatient when it comes to that nickel spot, as Grant Haley has struggled, Corey Ballentine has struggled, and Julian Love didn't get out to the best start in his football career, but really has been looking good at safety. So, and I'm really interested with what we're going to do with Julian Love as well. But I think the Giants really wanted somebody that can play the nickel right now, and I think he can. And let's look at Darnay Holmes, the corner out of UCLA. He ran a 4.48 in this year's 40-yard dash. 5-star recruit to UCLA. Started 11 out of 13 games as a true freshman in 2017, where he had 39 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, 3 interceptions, and 3 passes defensed. He was an honorable mention of the All Pac-12 team with 3 interceptions and 11 passes defensed. In 2019, he missed the first 2 games due to an ankle injury, but started the final 10 games, where he added another 2 interceptions and 6 passes defense. He had 2 pick sixes in 2017 and 2018 respectively. So he had 2 pick sixes, 1 in each year. Darnay Holmes played outside cornerback at UCLA and was successful for the most part at the collegiate level, but has a real future playing the slot in the NFL. Standing at 5'10", 195, he lacks the size to play outside and found himself behind the receiver on deep routes that he is unable to make a play on because of his lack of length. One thing I will tell you, this guy is a fighter. You have to look at this game versus, I believe it was Eastern Washington or Washington State, I believe. Darnay Holmes played extremely well and really had the fight in him. Yes, he was being picked on all game. I mean, they were really nagging Darnay Holmes. They were throwing his way all the time, and he was losing for the most part. But towards the end of the game, he did not quit. He kept fighting, and at some point, that quarterback was regretting throwing the ball his way, as he made a couple of passes defensed in that game and had really good coverage downfield at some point. This guy is a fighter. This guy does not quit. It's fresh air for the New York Giants and the New York Giants fans, because we've seen what Janoris Jenkins was, right? He always quit on guys. He always quit when he was doing poorly. Darnay Holmes does not quit. This guy will keep fighting. So looking at Darnay Holmes, I noticed that he does not have great zone coverage ability. In fact, he probably doesn't really know what he's doing in zone coverage. I seen him get lost a lot in coverage and give up a lot of throws. On top of that, he's not a guy that can really break on balls either. He's not a guy with extreme acceleration and extreme burst to really break on routes and make a play. He's more of a man-to-man type corner, and even that is a little bit of a struggle for him for faster, taller receivers. And he also has some very tight hips. I've seen like robotic movements when he kind of transitions on when a receiver moves around on routes. He really struggles with the slants and sluggo routes, which are outside routes. They're the slants, the sluggos, the go routes. Most of them are outside routes. You get that in the slot too. The slants you get in the slot, but the sluggos and the streaks are outside routes. I see him play more slot. He's definitely a slot corner, so he's not going to be seeing that as much, but he definitely struggled. But he did work on his hips, did work on his fluid movement. Check this out. Check what Michael Robinson had to say on NFL Network about Darnay Holmes.
For me, guys, I think a guy that made a lot of money. He wasn't on a lot of people's lists as a top corner. Darnay Holmes, UCLA, 5'10", 200-pound corner. This dude may have been the smoothest out of all the corners today, in and out of his breaks. It seemed like it's almost like he knew what the drills were before they were happening. He was such a great, he did such a great job. And he also ran a 4.48. I wanted to see him and see how fast he was. Actually, before checking out the combine, I really didn't know the kid too much. After I saw him today, went back, saw some of his tape, and obviously a lot of his skill set translates to the National Football League. He could possibly be a nickelback. You know, he's definitely a willing tackler. I would love to see what he does in the NFL defense as a nickelback.
I believe it was Bucky Brooks who graded Darnay Holmes the best nickel corner in this year's draft, and Pro Football Focus rated him 86th best on the draft class big board. So I mean, that's great value to get him at 110. He also, I guess, was in the Senior Bowl. I thought I saw him as a junior, but he was in the Senior Bowl, I guess. And I saw an article that also said that he got his first exposure to the slot in the Senior Bowl, and he, quote-unquote, loved it. So I love it. I love that he's willing to play slot. He's probably going to play slot, and I'm very excited to have him right alongside DeAndre Baker and James Bradbury. We now move on to our 5th round pick, and this one's probably the most interesting. And because a lot of people, when we chose him, a lot of people were very confused why we would get a guard in the 5th round that was great value as well. In Shane Lemieux, the guard out of Oregon. This guy's standing at 6'4", 310 pounds. This guy is an absolute mauler in the run game. When I tell you this guy's raw power and raw strength is something to see, man. Watch this guy on film. This guy dominates, absolutely dominates in the run game. Now, all that comes with its perks, right? You get great run game ability. That means your pass game is probably not that good, and his pass blocking is not that good, which is why he translates to center a lot better than he translates to guard in the NFL. On top of that, he has one of the shorter arm lengths in the NFL. That's according to multiple sources, that a lot of these teams are not going to like his arm lengths for the guards position. And I seen him at one point watching him on film. He was kind of his fingers were kind of touching the ground just ever so slightly. So he has shorter arms for his prototype, but he has the build. He can play center. I think the New York Giants found their center here without drafting a center. They drafted him. He's a guard out of Oregon. It seems like he's going to play center. And let's talk a little bit more about Shane Lemieux. Shane Lemieux only allowed 1 sack and 3 quarterback hits in 497 pass block reps as a senior, and he was the third rated guard in the Pac-12 and 23rd nationally by Pro Football Focus. Daniel Jeremiah said, quote, "His play style, it is mauler, brawler." I love that. I love hearing that from my offensive lineman. Mauler and a brawler. This guy is going to get down and dirty in the trenches, man. He is not afraid to put all his blood, sweat, and tears out there. This guy really, really means business in the trenches. I'm going to give this grade an A- for Shane Lemieux. We now move on to Cam Brown, the linebacker out of Penn State, standing at 6'5", 233 pounds, and ran a 40-yard dash of 4.72. Brown made his mark in 2018, starting 12 out of 13 games, racking up 62 tackles, 6.5 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, and 6 passes defense. Started 13 games in 2019, 72 tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss, and 4 passes defense, and made 3rd team All Big Ten. Brown is very average when it comes to pass coverage, and that's really what he's supposed to be good at because he is a smaller guy. He's 233 pounds on a 6'5" frame. He definitely needs to be bigger at that linebacker position. You guys can see pictures of him, but he just looks like a walking stick. And I'm not insulting the guy whatsoever. I think he has potential, but the guy just really has to gain some more weight if he really wants to make an NFL roster. And Brown really needs to learn some body control. When you see him on film, this guy's flailing his arms around. His legs are going everywhere. His body's just everywhere. When he goes to make a tackle, he kind of just ragdolls and throws himself like he's a dead body at people. That's what it really seems like to me. He's made a couple of good plays, couple of good screen plays, stopping the running back for a tackle for loss. He's made a couple of those plays, but it really doesn't look like too much to me. He doesn't show elite strength whatsoever. He's not that strong. He can't get a push on the offensive line, can't get a push on offensive linemen moving up to the next level. When you got a running back running right through, he's not able to get there. Really reminds me of a Zach Cunningham type player, the Texans middle linebacker who was formerly of Vanderbilt. In my opinion, Cam Brown really needs to add about 15 to 20 pounds before he's even thrown out there as an NFL linebacker. I'm going to give this grade a C+, just because the Giants were addressing the inside linebacker position as they did 2 more times in this draft for whatever reason. But let's move on to our next prospect. We move on to our 7th round picks. We have 4 7th round picks, and man, we have a lot to talk about because I love these guys. I like all of these guys. I think they all have some potential. So let's talk about our first guy, Carter Coughlin, the edge rusher out of Minnesota, standing in at 6'3", 236 pounds, and ran a 40-yard dash of 4.57. He's extremely smart but undersized with great speed. He really makes his success through his smarts and wits more than power. You can tell that he's not very strong. He doesn't really get a great push, but his stats are there. You cannot ignore the pressures. You cannot ignore the stats, the tackles for loss. You can't ignore any of that. As in 2018, he had 15 tackles for loss, 9.5 sacks, and won second team All-American. Second team All-Conference, and Minnesota's defensive MVP. This year, he won second team All-Conference again and led the Gophers with 9.5 tackles for loss, 4.5 sacks, which is a little bit on the low side, and 4 passes defense and 2 forced fumbles. All in all, Carter Coughlin has a chance to potentially be a rotational player just because he's able to somehow get a pressure, right? He's very smart. He knows what gaps to go through, when to stunt, when to speed rush, when to bend, all that stuff. He really doesn't win with pure power. You're not going to see him bull rush anybody, that's for sure, unless he gains some pounds. He's a little undersized at the position, but he's very smart. The guy has great football IQ, and I think a team could use somebody like him. Our second 7th round pick is TJ Brunson, another inside linebacker out of South Carolina. He's standing in at 6'1", 230 pounds. This guy was named 2-time team captain and most valuable player for South Carolina. This guy is just a fighter, man. This guy, you can see, is very energetic on the field. He's always willing to make the tackle. He's a more beefier guy. Yes, at 6'1", he's a little smaller, but really has that stock to him. You know, you see Carter Coughlin, he's 6'3", 236, or Cam Brown, he's 6'5", 233. So that frame is a little more plankier, but at 6'1", 230 pounds, TJ Brunson really looks like more built. TJ Brunson had a sports hernia surgery in 2019, but started all 12 games and racked up 140 tackles coming off of surgery. Like I said, this guy is thicker, he's tougher, he plays with more physicality. I like this guy. He has a chance to somehow be a special teams player. That's why I mostly see him being a special teams guy if he makes the roster, if not practice squad. But you know, he has a solid frame. I like him as a prototype for the inside linebacker position. Now, our last 7th round picks. Arguably, these guys could have been picked before the first 2 round 7 guys. I like these guys better than the 2 other round 7 guys. We're gonna start off first with our 247th overall pick, Chris Williamson. Chris Williamson, standing at 6 foot, 205 pounds. This guy was a Class 5A receiver coming out of high school into college. This guy was supposed to be playing for the Gators in Florida, but he did play with the Gators, but was mostly a special teams and reserve guy, and then he got his movie transferred to Minnesota. 2017 and 2018, he was a bench player in Minnesota and got his starting role in 2019, where he started 9 out of 13 games, 57 tackles, 2.5 sacks, 4 tackles for loss, 1 interception, and 3 passes defensed. Now, you can tell he really has an athletic ability, being a wide receiver that transitioned the cornerback. So you can tell his athletic ability is there. He's able to fluidly move around, is something that you like in guys like that. Chris Williamson is more physical than you would think, being a former wide receiver. He's definitely more physical. He definitely makes a lot of plays, really puts in effort versus the run, has really good strafing ability. I've noticed he's really good with moving side to side. You could potentially see him at safety. I see him more as a safety than a cornerback. I see him being able to patrol the field. It seemed like he enjoyed patrolling the field in zone coverage. He really has a knack for knowing where to go in zone coverage. In my opinion, I think he has a really good spot on the special teams game. He's pretty fast, pretty fluid with his hips, so I think I could see him being a gunner on special teams. We have great gunners already, so he'll have some shoes to fill, but I definitely see him as a priority special teams player. I'm going to give this grade an A- for Chris Williamson. And last but not least, probably my favorite 7th round pick, Mr. Irrelevant. That is Tay Crowder, the inside linebacker out of Georgia. Tay Crowder is standing in at 6'3", 235 pounds, and man, I've watched one game from him, as that's all that YouTube will show me, but I've watched one game from Tay Crowder and I fell in love. It was Tay Crowder versus Notre Dame, where this guy was all over the field, and he is so energetic. You want to talk about energy. You want to talk about playmaking ability, high motor. This guy was everywhere, making hard hit tackles, killing running backs on screens, blitzing from the inside and getting to the quarterback. I mean, you have to love Tay Crowder. And I'm going to have a hard time saying Tay Crowder instead of Jay Crowder, but that's neither here or there. Tay Crowder is a former running back who had to change and adapt to a situation with a crowded backfield of Nick Chubb and Sony Michel. Then after that, it was Brian Herrien and Elijah Holyfield. After spending one season redshirting, Crowder could not wait any longer and switched to linebacker. By 2019, he started all 13 games in 2019, and he was one of 12 semifinalists for the Dick Butkus Award. He totaled 62 tackles and 4 tackles for loss in his career with Georgia. Listen, this guy was a rotational player, but listen, he was great from what I've seen on film. I'm telling you right now, just looking at that one game, he looked like a second round pick to me. Now, obviously, I haven't seen the other games, so that's why he is graded so low and was projected to be undrafted. But I love the potential in this guy. This guy was a can't miss undrafted guy. I'm glad we drafted him, so now it's for sure we have him on the team. I really think, guys, call me crazy, but I think this guy can make the roster as an inside linebacker. He has decent coverage skills. He's very energetic. He's all over the field. He makes hard-hitting plays in the backfield, can blitz from the inside. I love what Tay Crowder can bring to the New York Giants. So that's all I got for you guys today. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Who do you guys think is the dark horse to make this roster out of the late round picks? Who do you guys love the most in this draft? Who do you guys dislike in the draft? Leave all your comments in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Woo!